This isn't a Subaru. Oh well. So, welcome everyone to, and I don't know what year, Mitsubishi Evo 10. The last Evo. It's good. Unlike what everyone else says about the Evo 10, it is actually fantastic. I think the problem is this Tesla that's backing up in front of me. The problem, I think, with people hating the Evo 10 is they hate the motor, which is not much of an issue. The Evo 10 came out in, I think, 2008 to replace the Evo 9. The Evo 9 was powered by a 270-something horsepower 4G63, which in the DSM community, everyone adores that motor. It's iron block, it's strong until it crank walks, and it can make really good power. Then the 10 came out, and everyone was very skeptical because it had a new all-aluminum engine called the 4B11. It makes 291 horsepower and 300 foot-pounds of torque, all of which comes on at 4,000 RPM. The 4B11 has something called MyVec, which I think the 4G had as well. It's a turbo VTEC engine, but Mitsubishi, so somehow worse. So this particular car, as you can see by the wing that's in the shot, is a GSR, so it's not the terrible transmission one. This has the proper 5-speed manual, not the 6-speed dual-clutch piece of shit. This car makes a very good case for keeping your Japanese sports car stock. I don't think I've ever driven a stock vehicle that can take corners as quickly as this can, and as comfortably. It's so smooth. The power delivery is smooth. The way it turns in is smooth. The thing that's not smooth, sadly, is the drivetrain, which, being a Mitsubishi, is not the most refined. Hello, Subaru. Oh wait, sorry. Subaru. So the drivetrain does make a decent amount of noise, and it does buck around when you get on and off the gas, which my Outback also does, and I thought that was just its problem, not an all-wheel drive thing. So I'm happy to find out that it doesn't. So to put this in terms that I can understand being a Subaru guy, the 4G63 is the equivalent of Subaru's EJ257. It's been around forever. Everyone knows pretty much everything there is to know about it. There's a lot of aftermarket for it, and it's relatively strong. The 4B11 is the equivalent of the F820 in the new 2015 Plus WRX. It is very terrifying because no one knows anything about it. There's not a huge amount of support like there is for the EJ, and it's still relatively unknown. There's still people trying to figure out what its limits are. Luckily, the Evo's been out for longer, so people have found the limits of the 4B, and it's nowhere near as bad as everyone thought it was going to be at first. They do have issues with torque, but you can make as much power as you want. Just don't go above 420 wheel torque. The other thing they have in common is they both sound like ass. I mean, it's all personal taste, but Subaru should absolutely have rumble. Equal-length headers sound terrible. This is stock, and I think they sound better once they have an exhaust on them, but for now, as is, it's just a noise. It sounds like engine. It's not a good sounding engine. Let's see if I can get to first. Hey, it's not a Subaru. That's not a pleasant noise. It's just engine. However, the power delivery is a different story. Actually, no, it's not. The power delivery is very weird. A lot of it's to do with the gearing. First gear is incredibly punchy. Second falls on its face. Same story through fourth, until you hit fifth, when it drops you another, 1,000 RPM, because it's just a ridiculous overdrive. And that brings me to the speedometer, which is probably my least favorite part about this whole car. 0 is at the very bottom center of it, and then it goes all the way around to about 180 at 3 o'clock. Ah! For instance, right now I'm going 35, and the needle is where less than 0 would be in my Subaru. And that does not help the fact that there is no sense of speed in this car. Somehow, for being a Mitsubishi Lancer, the cabin is actually very well isolated from most of the things that are going around you. except for the drivetrain, because that makes a lot of noise. But just going down this road, I feel like I'm doing 20, 25, but I'm going 40. You could very easily get yourself in a lot of trouble in this car, which I guess is the point, because again, the wing. The best part about this car is the handling. By a country mile, this handling is ridiculous. I've never driven a GTR, but I assume this is exactly what it handles like. The turn-in is incredibly precise, and it almost doesn't matter what speed you hit a corner at. If you give it power and turn in, it'll just take it. Steering is very tight, pretty direct. On center, it's actually very, like, I don't want to say twitchy because that's kind of harsh, but it's very responsive off center. It weights up pretty nicely when you're in a corner. I think it's hydraulic steering. It doesn't feel as numb as the electric steering in the Fiesta did. So I really like it. I think I took a corner earlier at about 70, and it felt like I was doing 45 through it, and it just didn't care at all. It is a fantastically capable vehicle, especially for the price you can get these for. They are still holding their value about as well as Subarus are. The owner got this one for $22,000, and with 93,000 miles, that's an okay deal. I don't think I would pay that much for it, but I'm also poor, so you know. I would happily pay right around 18 to 20 for one, though. I think these are, as the years go, as if they decide to make another Evo and the prices on these drop, they will absolutely be worth it in the future. For now, while they're still in the 25 mark, iffy. And absolutely don't buy an MR. If you buy an MR, you're a smooth brain. The problem with the MR is the servicing on it. You have to get it serviced roughly every 30,000 miles, and it's a $300 to $500 service. And they don't hold power very well either. I think they cap out at like 400 horse, whereas these you could put up to like 7. It's just, you know, a torque issue with the motor, so you're not going to get there anyway. So this, I guess, brings me to, what's the point of this car? Is it a daily? Is it a weekend toy? Is it a specific track or autocross car? Well, it's kind of whatever you want it to be. I've been driving it around for about an hour now on roads, and it's comfortable. The seats are very supportive. Now, let's talk about Mitsubishi, and specifically Mitsubishi quality, or rather, lack thereof. Every single thing you look at and touch is a very hard plastic. Those were 3 different panels, and they all sound the same. Hood rattles a lot, which is kind of funny. You can absolutely tell they spent the money on the drivetrain and the suspension, and not on anything that would make it a pleasant experience. Even the steering wheel's just like some kind of thin vinyl, I think. It all looks pretty nice, but the materials are obviously terrible. They're about on par with my Fiesta ST, which for about the same money, it makes sense. Moving on to the styling. I love how this car looks. I've always loved how the Evo 10 looks, especially in wicked white, especially compared to the WRX of this era. The 2008 to 14 WRX is probably the worst looking Subaru of all time, apart from the Tribeca. This thing just looks so aggressive. The only thing that lets it down a little bit is the back end is really just too tall, and there's no like features other than taillights. Passing power is great. Can absolutely get by idiots. Handling. Oh my god, yes, that was 60 through there, and it just didn't care. And of course you have the wonderful button that does the Jerry McClarkson Evo 7 thing, the tarmac gravel snow. So let's talk about the super all-wheel control, or SOC. I'm the only one that calls it SOC, I don't care. That is essentially a limited slip diff, but actually intelligent. It can vary the torque response front to back and side to side. There's actually a little light in the gauge cluster that tells you where the power is going at what time, which is very neat. Right now, since I'm just kind of trundling along at 55, it's just in the middle. but once you load it up into a corner and get it a little unhappy, it starts to change color, which is cool. Evo versus STI. Evos do not feel as fast. I'll say that right now. The whole stigma of Evos just being really fast is not true at all when they're stock. This feels about as fast as a stock FA-powered WRX. Most of the handling is not done by you in this car. All the computers just make you look like you know what you're doing, which is really cool. Because I've never driven a car that's like this. I've only driven more mechanical vehicles. That's not to say that this isn't an experience, because it is a fantastic experience. If you can, go drive an Evo 10, as long as it's stock. I don't know how they are modified. I feel like they're not as good. They can't be. The capability for a stock vehicle to be as good as this is absolutely mind-blowing. I went for 6th gear just then. I did do that. This needs a 6th gear, because we're at 60 in 5th, and it's at 3,000 RPM. Now that I think about it, this is exactly like my Outback, apart from in every single way.
It handles like yours.
No, because this doesn't understeer as bad as the Outback, and it also doesn't step the tail out as much as you can in the Outback. What this actually feels like to me, I've just thought of it. It really feels like a little bit longer wheelbase, extra grip version of my Fiesta. The way the steering rotates into a corner, the way it feels when you just wiggle it side to side driving in a straight line, it feels just like my Fiesta, but good. And the trans hasn't blown up yet.
Not twitchy, but a nimble feel.
Yeah, it's not intimidating, it's not twitchy, it's just, it feels agile, it feels way lighter than it is. This is a 3,500 pound car, and I've been chucking it into stuff that my Fiesta would have just lost its shit at 2,700 pounds. So there is a case to be made for heavier things doing well. So Duncan, the question I have for you, as a lifelong Subaru guy, for the past couple of years anyway, would you buy a Mitsubishi Evo 10?
So, personally, I wouldn't, but I would very much enjoy having one and driving one. I know myself that I would start to do too many things, and it would lose the enjoyability that it has stock.
Now, if you were being held at gunpoint to keep it stock, would you own one?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've heard it here first, guys. We've converted two Subaru guys to liking Evos.
Yeah.
Real shit, though, I was never really a Subaru guy. I was always an Evo fan, and then I got my Subaru. And I was like, hey, I like this, and these people are not complete douchebags. But I've always loved the Evo.
I've enjoyed, I believe it was the 7.
I love the 7. The one from Top Gear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've always enjoyed the looks of those.
Yeah.
They're a stereotypical Evo. And like anytime I think of an Evo, that's what I think of.
Yeah.
And they look great to me. This, you could tell they're trying to be over the top for a couple things, but it wasn't over the top. It looks good. It's a fantastic working car. And like I was saying, I very much would enjoy having one. But right now, the cost of one, I couldn't get into that.
We're also poors.
Yes.
If you had the money, would you buy one? Essentially, is what I'm asking. So let's compare this to the competition. Mark 6 Golf R, a very, very heavily used Focus RS for this price anyway. Very heavily used, probably on fire, or an Evo 10, or I guess a Stink Eye WRX.
I kind of like the Stink Eyes, not very much though. And being that it's my car that I'm currently driving with a different body on it, I couldn't justify that price on that car. Yes, it's newer, but I've put the same amount of damn money in. But
sounds like Subaru.
Yeah, for the Golf, I've never personally been a fan of Golfs. They might handle okay. They're good at power.
Their all-wheel drive system isn't nearly as good as this because it's a Haldex unit, so it's front-wheel drive until it decides to not be.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the same problem, actually, with the Focus RS. And if the Focus RS is on fire for this price anyway, I don't think you want that one.
No. I would definitely take an Evo 10, even versus what Derek and I were talking about earlier. Like, you could pick up a decent ST or a BRZ.
Yeah, Focus ST or a BRZ for roughly 20 to 25.
And I personally would take this over the Focus ST.
I absolutely would. I hate the Focus ST.
I would take this over a Fiesta ST even.
Really?
Yeah.
Same.
They're fun to play around in, but I couldn't see myself living with it.
Well, I did live with it for 2 years.
And that's probably part of what threw me off of it.
Really?
I can see myself having an Evo 10 and driving it and keeping it stock, maybe putting wheels and good tires on it. But other than that...
OEM Plus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Couple things.
Access port, wheels, tires.
I debate on whether I'd even do an access port.
Well, I would do it to get rid of the rev hang, which I forgot to mention. But the rev hang is horrible in this car.
The rev hang is bad.
There's a lot of things I forgot to talk about, but we almost have it back to the owner, so oh well.
But
the rev hang's terrible. The brakes are enormously fantastic.
All in all, it's a very well car to drive.
Very well car.
Yeah, I just got
this car cars very well. That's the sum up. This car cars.
It's fun to ride in. It's, according to Derek, very fun to drive. It's very capable. The interior feels a bit cheap, but your cost per performance, it's right in there. Like, you kind of have to cheapen out on the interior to keep it at a decent cost when you're talking about a car with this kind of legacy, which is always going to have a higher price point. I enjoy it.
I enjoy it very much.
There are things that I wish were different, but don't need to be different.
Yeah. And on that bombshell, it's time to end. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow Send Scoobs on Instagram, and Duncan, I'll put his thing halfway across the screen. That's what it does.
Oh, it's long.
And follow Ryan Gese on Instagram at gooseman_9. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. Have a great day.